I can't believe we're finally doing this, Laura said, bouncing on the balls of her feet as we stood in front of the small, sunlit apartment. She pressed her hand against the door, as if physically claiming it before even signing the lease. Our very own place. Just you and me, and, she waved dramatically, my genius plan. I smiled, trying to match her enthusiasm, though my stomach twisted a little. Yeah, it's exciting. But genius plan? I raised an eyebrow. Laura spun around, hair whipping across her face. Passive income, baby. This lease? It's not just a place to live. It's an investment. You'll see. I frowned. You mean subletting? She grinned. Exactly. Rent it out while we're at work. Easy money. I've done the math. I ran a hand through my hair. I don't know, Laura. Landlords usually frown on that kind of thing. And subletting can get messy. Messy? Please. She laughed, the kind that makes it hard to argue. I've got it all figured out. I'll find tenants online, screen them, handle everything. You won't even notice. Trust me. I wanted to, I really did. But something about the way she said it, so confident and charming, triggered a warning in my brain. I shook it off. All right. I mean, if you're sure. I'm more than sure, she said, grabbing my hand and squeezing it. This is going to change everything for us. I could feel the warmth of her hand, the excitement radiating off her. My logic told me to hesitate, but my heart leaned toward believing her. We signed the lease together later that afternoon. Lara's smile never wavered, mine was tight, uncertain. Afterward, I met Jake for a quick coffee. I needed someone to hear me out, someone outside the bubble of Lara's charm. So, you did it, Jake said, raising his eyebrows. Co-signed a lease with her? Yes, I admitted, stirring my coffee absent-mindedly. She promised it's a good investment. Passive income, yada yada. I sighed. I want to trust her, but it feels off. Jake shook his head. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. She's got ideas bigger than her experience, man. I've seen this before. I frowned. You think she's reckless? Not think. I know. Jake leaned in, lowering his voice. Look, I like Laura. I get it. But people like her, they see a shortcut to success and ignore all the red flags. Be careful, bro. I nodded, feeling a knot form in my chest. I'll keep an eye on it. I hope she's right. The next few days were a whirlwind. Boxes, furniture, IKEA instructions, chaos, but manageable. Laura was in her element, plotting out tenant schedules, designing room layouts, and talking about rental apps I'd never heard of. I found a listing site, she said one evening, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor. These apps are amazing. People pay top dollar for short-term leases, especially if the apartment is cute. I crouched beside her, peering at the tablet. And you're going to handle all of this yourself? She smirked. I'm not just handling it. I'm mastering it. Look, the first month will be trial and error, but once I figure it out, we're golden. I glanced around the apartment, imagining strangers moving in and out, keys exchanged, contracts signed. My chest tightened. What if something goes wrong? Laura rolled her eyes, exaggeratedly. Then we fix it. That's all. I wanted to argue, to tell her she was underestimating the risks, but I stayed silent. Her excitement was infectious, and I didn't want to ruin the mood. One night, while she slept, I found myself lying awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Is this a good idea? I wondered. Am I being naive? I shook my head and tried to sleep, but the worry clung to me. I loved her. I trusted her. But trusting someone with blind faith, especially when money was involved, felt dangerous. 2 weeks later, Jake stopped by unannounced. I was in the middle of negotiating with a furniture delivery guy when he walked in. "Whoa, this place looks fancy," he said, whistling. "You actually moved in?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a grin. "Thanks for coming, man. I needed a sanity check." Jake frowned. "Sanity check? What do you mean?" I gestured toward Lara's laptop, where spreadsheets, listings, and colorful sticky notes covered every digital corner. She's planning on subletting. She's convinced this place will pay for itself, plus make extra money. Jake stared at me for a long moment. "And you're going along with it?" I want to believe her," I admitted. "But I feel uneasy. She's smart, don't get me wrong, but there's something reckless in her, and I'm starting to see it." Jake gave me a long look. "Man, that's called ignoring red flags. You've got to watch yourself. Don't let charm blind you. People like Lara, they make it about their dreams, not about the consequences." I nodded, swallowing the lump forming in my throat. "Yeah. I know." Lara appeared then, waving energetically. "Jake. Perfect timing. Come see the living room makeover. Isn't it gorgeous?" Jake glanced at me. "I'm leaving this one in your hands, bro." He shook his head, smirking, and stepped out. As soon as the door closed, Lara grabbed my arm. "See? You were worried for nothing. Isn't it amazing?" "It looks nice," I said cautiously. "You sound unsure," she teased, tilting her head. "Are you going to let a little fear ruin our future?" I forced a smile, even though my chest was tight. "No, I trust you, mostly." She laughed, a sound so confident and bright it made me feel small and hesitant. "Mostly?" "Mostly," I repeated. We spent the next hours arranging furniture, measuring spaces, debating paint colors. Her excitement was relentless, her optimism blinding. I tried to match it, but deep inside, a warning bell rang. Later, as we sat on the couch, exhausted but satisfied, I voiced my concern, just slightly. "Lara, what if the tenants don't pay? What if the landlord finds out?" She waved my worries away like swatting at flies. "I told you, I've got it under control. I'm smarter than this. This lease is our golden ticket. You'll see, we'll be fine." I looked at her, at the sparkle in her eyes, the smile that made me forget doubt for a second, and nodded. "Okay. I hope you're right." She leaned her head on my shoulder, whispering, "I always am." And I wanted to believe her. I really did. But as I drifted to sleep that night, the tiny voice in the back of my head whispered, "What if I'm not?" I woke up to the sound of Lara typing furiously on her laptop. The sunlight streaming through the blinds caught her hair, making it glow, but all I felt was tension. "Already at it?" I asked, rubbing my eyes. She didn't look up. "I'm creating listings. The first tenant moves in next week. I have to be ready." I sat on the edge of the bed, coffee in hand. "Have you screened anyone yet?" "Screening is overrated," she said, smiling without looking at me. "I trust my instincts. Besides, I've read all the tips online." My stomach sank. Online tips aren't exactly a background check. Lara glanced at me briefly, raising an eyebrow. You worry too much. Relax. Everything will be fine. I wanted to argue, but I sighed. All right, fine. I'm trusting you. She grinned. That's what I like to hear. Later that afternoon, I met Jake again. I needed to vent before my anxiety ate me alive. You look tired, man, he said as I slumped into the booth at our favorite diner. Exhausted, I admitted. She's obsessed. Constantly planning, constantly typing, constantly talking about tenants, rent, apps. I feel like I'm living in her spreadsheet. Jake laughed, but it was short. Yeah, that sounds like classic Lara. Did she convince you to co-sign yet? I groaned. Of course she did. I thought it would be fine, but now I'm not so sure. See? Jake leaned back. I told you. People like that, they charm you, then the real chaos starts. You can't just ignore it. I know, I muttered, stirring my coffee nervously. But I love her. I want to believe she's right. Love isn't blind, he said firmly. Don't let her ambition put you in a mess you can't clean up. I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. Yeah, you're right. Back at the apartment, Lara was on a video call with someone, probably a prospective tenant. Yes. I can show the apartment this weekend, she said brightly. You'll love it. The kitchen has great lighting, perfect for cooking videos. I froze. Cooking videos? Tenants aren't supposed to film content in someone else's apartment. When the call ended, she looked at me. What? Just tenants filming videos? Is that normal? She laughed, tossing her hair over her shoulder. It's a trend, not a problem. Relax. I've got it under control. I shook my head. I don't know, Lara. It feels like too much. Too fast. Too fast? We're moving forward, not backward, she said, waving her hands. I'm building a future for us. You don't see the bigger picture. I swallowed. I see it. I worry. You worry too much, she said, standing close and brushing her hand against mine. Trust me. I've got this. A few days later, I noticed something else. Lara had promised that all tenants would be pre-screened, but she hadn't shown me any forms or IDs. Lara, have you checked them properly? I asked one evening as we ate takeout on the couch. She waved a fork at me, frustrated. I told you, I trust my instincts. I don't need paperwork. These are good people. I frowned. What if they cause problems? Damage the apartment? Miss rent? She sighed dramatically. You sound like my mother. It's fine. You worry too much. Stop thinking about worst-case scenarios. I bit my tongue. I wanted to push to insist, but her confident smile made it hard to stay firm. Then came the first warning. A tenant sent a message, complaining about the keys. Lara ignored it, telling me she'd handle it tomorrow. Tomorrow? Lara, they're locked out now. I said, my voice rising. She looked at me, eyes wide. Relax. It's just a small issue. Nothing to stress about. I shook my head. It's not nothing. It's the start of a chain. What if this escalates? You're overthinking, she said, brushing past me. I have this. Trust me. I wanted to, but my chest tightened. This isn't trust. It's denial, I thought. That night, I stayed awake, scrolling through tenant messages she'd left unanswered. Some were complaints, some questions, none addressed. I felt a creeping sense of dread. The next day, Laura left early, saying she had appointments. I stayed behind, checking the apartment, making sure nothing was broken. Everything seemed fine, but the tension in the air was heavy. When she returned, she was radiant. Guess what? I found someone to rent the spare room for 3 months. Isn't it amazing? I forced a smile. Yeah, amazing. She laughed. You don't sound excited. I'm excited, I said. I wish we were more careful. You're rushing things. Rushing? I'm taking action, she said, grabbing my hand. You worry too much. I'm doing everything for us. You'll see, it'll pay off. I wanted to argue, but I stayed silent. Her enthusiasm was like a wave, sweeping over my doubts. A week later, another tenant issue arose. Noise complaints. Late rent. One person hadn't even signed a contract. Laura, what is happening? I asked, pacing the living room. Didn't you screen them? I did, she said, throwing up her hands. I chose them carefully. They're fine. Relax. They're not fine. I shouted. We're getting complaints. You promised we'd do this responsibly. She took a deep breath and leaned against the wall, looking at me with wide, innocent eyes. I told you, I have instincts. Everything I do is for us. You just don't see it yet. I ran a hand through my hair. I'm trying to see it. I really am. But this is chaos, Laura. Chaos disguised as a plan. She smiled softly, stepping closer. Chaos? No, it's opportunity. You'll understand. Soon. I didn't feel reassured. I felt trapped in her optimism, caught between love and logic. Later that night, I called Jake. It's getting worse, I said quietly. She's ignoring problems, making impulsive decisions, and I don't know what to do. Jake's voice was calm but firm. I told you. Step back. Observe. You can't control her, but you can control yourself. Don't get dragged into her mess. I'm scared, I admitted. I love her, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if this is safe. Exactly, he said. That's your gut talking. Don't ignore it. I hung up, staring at the dark ceiling. I'm already in it. I can't step back without consequences. The next day, I tried to discuss it with Laura. Look, the tenants, some of them haven't paid. Some have complaints. Maybe we should slow down. She rolled her eyes. Slow down? You're killing my vibe. We don't slow down. We move forward. You'll see, we'll profit, and you'll thank me later. I clenched my jaw. Profit doesn't matter if we're evicted. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. It started with a casual text while I was at work. Hey, can I borrow a little cash? For the apartment upgrades. You'll get it back next week, promise. It was from Laura. I frowned, leaning back in my chair. Upgrades? She hadn't mentioned needing money beyond what we'd already spent. I called her immediately. Laura, what upgrades? I thought we had everything covered. Oh, it's nothing big, she said breezily, voice too casual. Just some small fixes, painting, lights, cleaning supplies. I'll pay you back. I rubbed my forehead. Small fixes? How much are we talking about? Nothing crazy. A few hundred, she said. Trust me. I'm being smart about this. I hesitated. My gut twisted. Lara, borrowing money like this without discussing it first isn't smart. I am discussing it, she said, a slight edge creeping in. I just need your help. Don't make it a big deal. I don't want it to be a big deal, I said, keeping my voice steady. I wish you'd be upfront. I am upfront, she said, defensively. You're overreacting, as usual. Just send it, please. I sighed. Against my better judgment, I transferred the money. Her grin was infectious, but I felt a seed of doubt plant itself in my chest. A few days later, I found out the truth. I was checking some tenant messages when I noticed an unfamiliar name in the thread, Victor. A mutual friend. Lara, who's Victor? I asked, tapping her shoulder. She froze, her smile faltering. Victor? Oh, just someone helping with apartment things. Nothing serious. Nothing serious? I repeated, narrowing my eyes. He knows about the money you borrowed? Her voice got tight. Yes, but I handled it. He's just assisting. I frowned. Assisting how? She laughed nervously. You're reading too much into it. Victor knows about the upgrades. He's helping with planning. That's it. I could feel my chest tighten. Helping with planning? Lara, I trusted you to manage this responsibly. You involved him without telling me? I didn't think it was a big deal, she said, waving her hands. He's a friend. He's just advising me. I didn't want to worry you. I shook my head. Not a big deal? Lara, this isn't a game. I co-signed the lease. I'm responsible too. You can't just bring people in secretly. Her lips pressed into a thin line. I thought I was helping us. He knows what he's doing. I just needed guidance. Guidance? I echoed. Or convenience. Her eyes flashed with irritation. Don't twist this. I'm doing everything for us. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my rising anger. You keep saying it's for us. But the way you handle things, borrowing money without telling me, involving others without asking, it doesn't feel like us. It feels like your plan, your way, your risk. She looked away, her jaw tight. You're overreacting. I'm just trying to make things work. I stared at her. Trying to make things work? Or trying to prove something to yourself? She whipped around, eyes blazing. You think I'm selfish? Is that it? You don't trust me at all. I trust you, I said, voice low. I can't blindly follow. Not when this could ruin both of us. Her expression softened slightly. I'm scared too, okay? I want this to work. I want us to be secure. But I can't do it your way all the time. I ran a hand through my hair. Your way has consequences, Lara. People don't just magically handle things. One wrong move, and we're in trouble. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. I know. I'm trying. You're trying, I repeated, my voice quiet but firm. But it's not enough if you keep making decisions in secret. She looked down at the floor. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just thought I was doing the right thing. I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to forgive her. But the seed of betrayal had already taken root. Then, the real shock came. I was checking the tenant listings when I noticed multiple names, people who had signed subleases without my knowledge. Laura. I shouted, my voice echoing through the apartment. What is this? These people, they're subletting without my approval? She froze, eyes wide. I thought you didn't care. I mean, I asked you about screening, and you shrugged. I shrugged because I trusted you to do it right. I yelled. You involved Victor, borrowed money without telling me, and now, what? Multiple tenants? This isn't a plan. This is chaos. She looked like someone had slapped her. I can explain. Explain? I repeated, pacing. You should have told me first. We're partners. Partners share responsibility, not hide things. I thought I was helping, she said, voice cracking. I wanted us to succeed. I didn't want you to worry. I stopped, staring at her. Her eyes were pleading, but the anger in my chest didn't fade. Helping by hiding things? That's not help. That's betrayal. I didn't mean it, she whispered. I didn't think. I shook my head. You didn't think. That's exactly it, Laura. You didn't think about me, about us, about the consequences. You only thought about proving your plan worked. Tears formed in her eyes. I just wanted to make things perfect for us. I didn't want to disappoint you. I exhaled slowly, trying to contain my emotions. Laura, you've already disappointed me. Not because you failed, but because you didn't include me. I'm supposed to be your partner, but I found out about everything by accident. She fell silent, unable to meet my eyes. I could see the guilt and fear battling in her expression. I thought it would be fine, she finally said, voice trembling. I didn't think it would upset you. I looked at her, the woman I loved, and realized how much I had underestimated the consequences of trusting blindly. It's not about upsetting me. It's about respect, transparency. You've broken both. She started to cry softly, and my heart ached. I wanted to reach out, but I pulled back. The betrayal felt raw, unhealed. I'll fix it, she said, wiping her tears. I promise. I'll handle everything, just please don't be mad. I shook my head. It's not about being mad, Laura. It's about knowing that the person you trust most can't make decisions without you. That's what hurts. She looked at me with desperation. I didn't know how to include you without slowing everything down. I thought you'd see the results and be proud. I sighed, the weight of everything pressing down. I would have been proud if you had been honest. But hiding things, borrowing money secretly, letting tenants move in without my knowledge, that's betrayal, Laura. I was sitting on the couch, staring at my laptop, when the email arrived. Subject: lease violation, immediate attention required. I froze, my heart skipping a beat. Laura, I said slowly, my voice tight. You need to see this. She looked up from her phone, eyes bright with her usual optimism. What is it? I hit print and handed her the paper. Her smile faltered as she read. Eviction notice, she whispered, voice trembling. Yes, I said. The landlord says multiple subleases, tenant complaints, and unpaid rent. We're in violation. We could lose the apartment. She sat down heavily, pressing the paper to her chest. I didn't think it would get this bad. I can fix it. I promise. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice calm. Lara, it's too late for fixing it easily. The landlord is serious. He says we have a week to resolve this, or we're out. She shook her head frantically. No. This can't be happening. I've been so careful. I did everything right. You did what you thought was right, I said, voice low, but my chest tightened. But your right is a mess. I tried warning you. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want to disappoint you. I thought I was helping us. I sank onto the couch beside her, the weight of everything pressing down. I know you thought that. But intentions don't undo consequences. Look at what's happening. We're on the edge, Lara. She covered her face with her hands. I can't believe this. I thought we were building something stable. We are, I said quietly, but my words felt hollow. But stability comes from honesty, from planning, from working together. Not from hiding things, making secret deals, or ignoring rules. She lifted her head, eyes red and pleading. I just wanted to make it perfect. I thought if I handled everything, you'd be proud of me. I didn't think. I would have been proud, I said, voice breaking slightly. If you'd been honest from the start. But you weren't. And now, I trailed off, shaking my head. Now we're in this mess. She stared at me silently. I didn't know what else to do. Then you should have told me, I said firmly. Not kept secrets. Not borrowed money from Victor behind my back. Not let tenants move in without consent. That's the difference, Lara. That's what broke my trust. Her lips quivered. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. I didn't know. You didn't mean, I echoed, my voice rising. And yet here we are. Eviction notices, angry tenants, money owed, legal issues. That's what your I didn't mean created. She flinched, looking as if I'd hit her. I'll fix it. I'll call everyone, I'll pay them, I held up a hand. Lara. Stop. This isn't about fixing it with gestures. It's about accountability. You made choices. You need to face them. Not just try to patch them up. Do you understand? I think so, she whispered, voice shaking. I exhaled slowly, trying to steady myself. Good. Because this is serious. One more misstep and we're out. No excuses. Her eyes widened. But I thought this was my plan. I didn't want to drag you down. You did drag me down, I said, voice softening slightly. I trusted you. I wanted to help, to be part of this. But you shut me out. That's what hurts the most. She started to sob, quiet at first, then louder, the sound echoing through the small apartment. I don't know what to do, she whispered between sobs. I just wanted to make things right. I know, I said gently. And now we'll figure out what can be fixed. But it starts with honesty. No more secrets. She nodded, still crying, burying her face in her hands. I promise. I'll be honest. I'll tell them everything, Good, I said, trying to calm both of us. We need a plan. First, we contact the landlord. Then, we sort the tenants. We list who owes what. Then we figure out the money. One step at a time. But this time, together. She looked up, tear-streaked but desperate. Together? Yes, I said firmly. Together. No more hiding things. No more acting alone. We either face this as a team, or we lose everything. She nodded again, swallowing hard. I'll do it. I'll face it. I exhaled slowly, feeling the tension in my chest ease slightly. Good. That's the first step. The next morning, Laura called the tenants. I listened from the kitchen as she explained the situation, apologized for confusion, and promised to sort everything. Some of them seemed receptive, others sounded angry. She's panicking, I muttered quietly. She should. Jake's voice rang in my head from our earlier warnings. Actions have consequences. Laura hung up and slumped onto the couch. That was harder than I thought. Some of them are still angry. I nodded. I know. But you did the right thing. At least you're honest now. She looked at me, eyes wide. Do you forgive me? I hesitated. I don't know if it's about forgiveness yet. It's about responsibility. You need to prove it, not ask for forgiveness. I will, she whispered. The landlord called later, his voice cold but not cruel. I received your explanation. I'll give you a few days to fix this. But after that, eviction proceedings will continue if the situation isn't resolved. I passed the phone to Laura, watching her face pale as she spoke. I didn't interrupt. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices. When she hung up, she leaned against the wall, trembling. I didn't think it would get this far. I crossed my arms. You need to think about it now. Every decision has consequences. Every choice matters. You can't ignore reality. I know, she whispered. The rest of the day was tense. I helped her organize messages, list unpaid rent, and draft emails to tenants. She followed my lead, listening more than talking. For the first time, I saw her humbled, realizing how much she had underestimated the situation. I'm sorry, she said quietly as we finished the last email. I didn't mean to put us in this position. I know, I said. But sorry doesn't undo what's done. You have to work for the solution. Actions, not words. She nodded, tears welling again. I'll do whatever it takes. I sighed, feeling exhausted but slightly relieved. The initial shock was over, and now the real work began. Later, we sat in silence, the apartment heavy with tension. I reached for her hand tentatively. We'll fix this. But it starts with trust. No more secrets, Laura. Promise me. The morning after the landlord's call, I felt exhausted but awake in a way that forced me to face reality. Laura was sitting on the couch, hunched over her phone, scrolling through tenant messages like a woman possessed. Laura, I said cautiously, we need a plan. Not just promises. She looked up, eyes red from crying. I know. I'm trying. You tried yesterday, I said, keeping my voice steady. Now we need action. Names, rent amounts, complaints, everything organized. We can't waste another day. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. I grabbed a notepad and pen. Good. Let's make a list. Who owes what? She read off names while I wrote furiously. Tom, unpaid rent. Sarah, noise complaints. Victor, paid late, apparently. Victor? I asked, raising an eyebrow. The friend you involved in the first place? She winced. I didn't know how to explain it to him properly. I made mistakes. I set the pen down. You made mistakes. We're cleaning them up now. Own it. No excuses. Got it? Yes, she whispered, biting her lip. After we finished the list, I suggested contacting the landlord first. We need to show initiative. Call him, explain that we're addressing everything, and request a short extension. She nodded and dialed, her voice shaking as she spoke. I listened from the kitchen, noting every word. She apologized, outlined our corrective actions, and promised updates. The landlord responded sternly but agreed to wait a few days. I exhaled, a small relief washing over me. See? That wasn't so hard. She looked up, hopeful. Do you think he'll forgive me? It's not about forgiveness, I said. It's about trust and accountability. Actions matter more than words. Laura nodded, staring at her hands. I get it. Next, we contacted the tenants. Some were angry, some confused. I took the lead, narrating the plan in calm, firm tones while Laura followed along. I'm the one responsible for this situation, I said during a call with Tom. I understand your frustration. We are reviewing your lease, addressing unpaid rent, and will provide solutions. Thank you for your patience. He grumbled but agreed to meet the next day. Laura watched silently, her expression a mix of guilt and awe. You're handling this well, she murmured. Experience, I said dryly. You'll learn. Actions matter. Words are meaningless without them. She didn't respond, but I could tell she understood. By midday, we had made calls, drafted emails, and organized the apartment. I glanced at her. You're listening. That's good. But no more solo decisions. You follow the plan. She nodded. Yes. I promise. I felt a faint hope. Maybe this could work. But I also knew one misstep could unravel everything. Laura started to cry quietly, and I approached her. Hey. I know it's overwhelming. But panicking doesn't solve anything. We fix one problem at a time. She wiped her eyes. I don't know how I got us here. I thought I was helping. You were trying, I said. But trying isn't enough if you ignore reality. Now we fix it together. Her voice was small. Together. Good. Together, I said, gripping her shoulder gently. After a short break, we visited the landlord in person. I took the lead, explaining our efforts, showing the tenant list, and detailing payments already made. Laura remained quiet, watching, her head bowed. The landlord raised his eyebrows. Looks like you're taking responsibility. I'll give you until the end of the week. After that, no extensions. I nodded firmly. Understood. We'll comply. Laura let out a shaky breath. I can't believe this. I almost ruined everything. You didn't almost ruin it, you did, I said. But you're making it right now. That counts. She looked at me, guilt mixed with relief. Do you forgive me? I hesitated. Not fully. Forgiveness isn't instant. Trust is earned, Laura. Keep proving it, and maybe someday. She swallowed. I will. We returned to the apartment, where the chaos had grown slightly quieter. I suggested tackling each tenant individually. Step 1, who owes rent? Step 2, complaints. Step 3, damage reports. Step 4, payments. We check off each step. She nodded, taking notes. Yes, step by step. By evening, we had contacted every tenant, arranged payments, and addressed minor complaints. Lara's demeanor had changed. She listened, followed instructions, and seemed genuinely humbled. You're different today, I said. I can actually work with you instead of against you. She smiled faintly. I know. I screwed up, but I'm learning. Good, I said. Keep learning. Actions matter more than words. Later, as we rested on the couch, Lara spoke quietly. I never realized how much responsibility this really is. I thought enthusiasm was enough. It isn't, I said gently. Enthusiasm without discipline is chaos. You learned that the hard way. She nodded, tears welling again. I'm sorry for dragging us into this. I didn't think. I know, I said. You know better now. That counts more than apologies. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Do you think we'll make it? I don't know yet, I admitted. But if we stick to the plan, follow through, and keep communication open, maybe we can. She nodded, resting against me. I won't make the same mistakes again. I promise. You'd better not, I said, half joking, half serious. We spent the next day drafting contracts, confirming payments, and inspecting the apartment. Lara followed my instructions without argument. I could feel the shift. She was no longer the reckless girl making solo decisions. She was learning accountability. You're actually useful now, I said, smiling despite myself. She grinned, though weakly. Took me long enough. By the evening, we were exhausted but organized. The apartment was still a mess of boxes and furniture, but at least we had control. I can't believe how much work this is, she said, flopping onto the couch. Yeah, I agreed, rubbing my temples. Welcome to adulting. Responsibility isn't glamorous. She laughed faintly, wiping tears from her cheeks. I get it now. I really do. Good, I said. Now let's hope this holds until the landlord checks back. She nodded, silent, reflecting on her mistakes. I could tell she was learning, slowly, painfully, but learning nonetheless. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about the week. The betrayal, the chaos, the tension, it had been exhausting. But I realized something. We were still here. Still standing. And despite everything, we had a chance to fix what we broke. I should have known things wouldn't stay calm for long. It started with a knock at the door one morning. I wasn't expecting anyone. Lara peeked through the peephole, then gasped. It's Victor, she whispered. Victor. The same guy she had involved in the apartment chaos weeks ago. My stomach sank. Do I need to hide? I muttered, moving away from the door. Lara rolled her eyes. No, just be prepared. I opened the door cautiously. Victor stood there, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Hey, man, he said casually, nodding toward me. I need to talk to Lara. Talk to her? Now? I asked, narrowing my eyes. What's going on? He ignored me, stepping inside after Lara reluctantly let him in. I didn't know he was coming, she said, biting her lip. Neither did I muttered under my breath. Victor turned to her, voice firm. Lara, you promised me the payments for the tenants. Some haven't been transferred yet. I need them today. What? Lara stammered. I thought I handled that. No, he said, shaking his head. Some are still pending. I can't cover them anymore. I've already advanced my own money to prevent complaints from escalating. I crossed my arms. Wait a second. He advanced money? Why didn't you tell me? Lara swallowed hard. I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought I'd manage it before you noticed. Didn't think it was a big deal? I repeated, feeling my chest tighten. Lara, this is exactly the problem. Every time you make decisions without me, this is what happens. Chaos. Victor frowned. Look, I don't care about your arguments. I just need the money. Today. Lara's face paled. I don't have it all yet. I thought. You thought what? I snapped. You thought someone else would clean up after your mistakes? You can't keep doing this. I didn't mean for it to get this bad, she cried. I know, I said, voice tighter than I expected. But it did. And now we're paying the price. Victor interjected, tone cold. I've covered enough already. If you don't pay me today, the tenants will file complaints, and the landlord will move faster on eviction. Lara's eyes widened. I can't pay him all at once. I don't have that much saved. I stepped forward. Then we split it. We make a plan. You follow my lead, step by step, or we lose everything. Victor's eyes flicked between us. Fine. But I need the first half today, or I'm done helping. Lara nodded frantically. Okay, we'll do it. I promise. I took a deep breath. We'll go to the bank. All together. Now. As we left, Lara kept glancing at me nervously. I didn't know he'd push this hard. Didn't think, I muttered under my breath. At the bank, I handled the transfers while Lara and Victor watched anxiously. I made sure each payment was precise, double-checked, and confirmed. The tension was suffocating. You're thorough, Victor said finally, voice neutral. I don't trust loose ends, I said flatly. Lara bit her lip, clearly embarrassed. I should have done this properly in the first place. Yes, you should have, I said, voice low but firm. Now, maybe you'll understand why I warned you. Victor finally nodded. Good. This is better. If you keep it up, things will stabilize. We returned to the apartment, and Lara collapsed onto the couch, exhausted. I feel like everything is my fault. It is partly, I admitted. But we're fixing it. That counts for something. I just wanted to make things work, she said quietly. I didn't think it would turn into this. I know, I said. But you need to learn that enthusiasm isn't enough. Responsibility and honesty matter more. She nodded. I'm learning. I promise. I sighed, feeling a mix of relief and lingering tension. Good. Keep learning. The next day, karma started showing its teeth. One of the tenants, Sarah, called furious. Your apartment is a mess, she yelled. I told you about noise complaints, and nothing's changed. I grabbed the phone, voice steady. Sarah, we're addressing the issues. I've spoken to the landlord, and we're implementing solutions. Please calm down so we can fix this. She huffed. You'd better, or I escalate it. I hung up and turned to Laura. See? Consequences. Real ones. We can't ignore them. She nodded, voice small. I get it. I really do now. Then Victor called again. Laura, some tenants haven't responded. We need updates. I sent them messages, she said nervously. Not enough, he replied sharply. I can't babysit all of this forever. I stepped in. Victor's right. You need to take responsibility. No excuses. Step up, handle it, or we fail. Laura swallowed hard. I will. I promise. Over the next few days, the apartment felt like a battlefield. Every call, every email, every tenant interaction was a test of patience and planning. I guided Laura step by step, and she followed, visibly humbled. You're different now, I said one evening as we sorted invoices. I can actually work with you instead of against you. She smiled faintly. It took a disaster to teach me. I laughed, shaking my head. Yeah. That's called karma, Laura. It bites hard, and now you're feeling it. She blushed slightly. I guess I do. The eviction threat lingered in the back of my mind. Every wrong move could reignite the chaos. I stayed vigilant, double-checking payments, tenant messages, and Victor's contributions. You're obsessive, Laura said one night as we went through spreadsheets. Obsessive keeps us alive, I said flatly. You learned what happens without attention to detail. She laughed nervously. Lesson learned. Then came the landlord's follow-up. We met him in the lobby of the building. I explained our progress, detailed tenant resolutions, and presented payments made. Laura stayed quiet, watching, her posture apologetic. The landlord raised an eyebrow. I see you're taking responsibility now. Keep it up, and eviction won't be necessary. Fail again, and I won't hesitate. I nodded firmly. Understood. We'll comply fully. Laura swallowed, voice barely a whisper. I can't believe how serious this is. I reached for her hand. You should. It's called consequences. Life isn't a game. Karma doesn't wait. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I understand now. The morning light cut through the blinds, sharp and unforgiving. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, staring at the stack of tenant complaints and payment confirmations. Laura was quiet, unusually subdued. She began hesitantly. I think I need to be honest with you, fully honest. I looked up, eyebrow raised. Go on. I didn't just involve Victor to help with tenants, she said, voice trembling. I let him handle some of the subleases behind your back. I thought it would make things easier for me. Faster. Smarter. I felt a sting in my chest. Faster? Smarter? Laura, that's exactly the problem. You didn't consider how it would affect me or the apartment. She bit her lip. I know. I thought I could manage everything, and you'd see results and be proud. I wanted to prove I could handle it myself. And instead you almost got us evicted, I said, voice tight. That's the reality of your proof. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't think it would go that far. I didn't think anyone would get hurt. You did hurt people, I said calmly, though my chest tightened. The tenants, Victor, the landlord, me. You caused chaos, and we nearly lost everything. I understand now, she whispered. I really do. I set my coffee down, trying to steady my voice. Good. Understanding is the first step. But we need more than that. Actions. Full accountability. No more hiding. I promise, she said quickly, almost desperately. No more secrets. Then start by telling me everything, I said. Every sublease, every payment Victor handled, every tenant complaint. I want the full picture. She nodded, hands shaking. Okay. I'll start. She went through the entire list, admitting each mistake, each oversight, each reckless decision. I listened, occasionally taking notes, occasionally staring at the wall, absorbing the sheer scale of the mess. So, I said finally, exhaling slowly. Victor covered quite a bit, right? Yes, she said, eyes downcast. He advanced money, handled complaints, even negotiated with some tenants. And you didn't tell me any of this? I asked, tone low. I thought I could manage it before you noticed, she admitted. I shook my head. Lara, that's the problem. You assumed you could do it alone. That's not how partnerships work. She whimpered softly. I know. I screwed up. Yes, you did, I said, voice firm. But now we have to fix it. Together. Step by step. She nodded, swallowing hard. I'll do whatever it takes. We spent the next hour reconciling tenant lists with payments made and pending. Lara's hands shook as she typed emails and called tenants. I guided her through each step, correcting mistakes and making suggestions. You're actually doing it right now, I said. I'm trying, she whispered. I don't want to mess up again. Good, I said. Try isn't enough. You need to be precise. Clear. Responsible. Every action counts. Yes, she said, voice firmer now. I understand. I really do. The landlord called later that morning, asking for an update. I handed the phone to Lara, letting her explain the steps we were taking. Her voice wavered at first but grew steady as she outlined our progress and demonstrated accountability. I can't believe how nervous I was, she said quietly after hanging up. You should have been, I said. Responsibility isn't comfortable. You've felt what happens when you ignore it. She nodded. I get it now. I won't forget this. By midday, Victor stopped by again, this time calmer. Lara, I need updates on pending payments and tenant agreements. I have it all, she said, presenting him with a notebook and a list. Victor scanned it and nodded slowly. Looks better. You're taking responsibility. Keep it up. Thank you, she whispered, relief evident. I glanced at her. See? Actions speak louder than excuses. I finally get it, she said softly. We spent the afternoon meeting tenants, confirming payments, and resolving complaints. I stayed close, guiding her tone, words, and actions. She followed, hesitant at first, but gradually gaining confidence. You're learning fast, I said during a brief pause. I have to, she said. I can't let this happen again. I don't want to lose you. You almost did lose everything, I said quietly. Including me. That's the truth you need to face. Don't forget it. She nodded, tears welling again. I won't. I promise. Later, as we organized the apartment, Laura stopped and looked at me. I never realized how much I underestimated responsibility. I thought passion was enough. It's not, I said. Enthusiasm without discipline is disaster. You learned that. The question now is whether you'll act differently. I will, she said firmly. I swear I will. We continued our work in silence, both exhausted but making progress. The apartment slowly regained order. The chaos from weeks ago seemed like a distant memory, though its lessons were etched deeply in my mind. You're actually handling this well, I said, watching her reconcile another tenant complaint. I have to, she said softly. No more hiding, no more mistakes. I can't afford them. Good, I said. Actions matter. Words don't fix what's broken. You've learned that now. By evening, the apartment was in order. Tenant payments were on track, complaints resolved, and Victor seemed satisfied for the moment. I can't believe we made it through, Laura said quietly, leaning against me. I can, I said. Because we faced the truth, accepted consequences, and acted responsibly. That's how survival works. She nodded, squeezing my hand. I understand now. I won't take shortcuts again. You'd better not, I said firmly, half joking, half serious. The evening passed quietly. For the first time in weeks, the apartment felt calm. Lara's demeanor had shifted, reckless confidence replaced by cautious accountability. I could see the growth in her, slow but undeniable. You're different, I said quietly, glancing at her. I had to be, she said. I nearly lost everything. And you. I can't let that happen again. Good, I said. Never forget it. She nodded, tears still lingering in her eyes. I won't. I exhaled slowly, feeling the tension in my chest ease. Now, we move forward. Together. No secrets, no shortcuts. Just honesty, responsibility, and action. She smiled faintly, nodding. Together. The day the landlord returned felt like walking into a storm. I could feel the tension radiating through the apartment as Laura and I waited for him in the living room. The tenant files were organized, payments confirmed, and complaints addressed, but I knew nothing guaranteed success until he saw it with his own eyes. The door clicked open, and there he was, tall and imposing, with a no-nonsense expression. Good morning, I said, standing. Laura sat on the couch, hands clasped tightly in her lap, eyes wide with anxiety. Morning, he said, scanning the apartment. He paused at the files neatly stacked on the table. Looks organized. Yes, I said. We've reconciled tenant payments, addressed complaints, and confirmed all pending issues. Laura took full responsibility and coordinated the resolutions. He turned to Laura. Is that true? She nodded, voice trembling slightly. Yes. I handled everything under guidance. I I take full responsibility for my previous mistakes. He raised an eyebrow. Everything? Yes, sir, she said firmly. Every payment, every complaint, every tenant issue. I made mistakes, but I've corrected them. I watched her carefully. For the first time, she sounded confident, even accountable. Good, the landlord said slowly, pacing the room. I've received your emails, confirmed payments with tenants, and spoken to Victor. Everything checks out, mostly. But I need to be sure this is the last time. One more slip, and the eviction will proceed immediately. I understand, I said firmly. This will not happen again. We've learned the consequences of past mistakes. Do you understand, Lara? He asked. Yes, sir, she said, head down but voice steady. I understand completely. He glanced at me. And you? I'll make sure it stays that way, I said. I won't let any shortcuts or mismanagement jeopardize this apartment again. The landlord paused, studying us both carefully. I'll give you one more chance. But mark my words, there's no room for error. Understood? Yes, sir, we said together. Good, he said, finally nodding. I'll check back next month. I expect everything to remain in order. Dismissed. The moment he left, Lara slumped back onto the couch, exhaling shakily. I can't believe we made it. I almost ruined everything. You almost did, I said, voice low. But you didn't. That's what counts. She looked at me, tears brimming. I don't know how to thank you. You guided me, and I finally understand what responsibility really means. I shook my head. No thanks. Just remember it. Don't forget the lessons. She bit her lip, nodding. I won't. I promise. For the next few days, we focused on maintaining the apartment and tenant relationships. Lara was meticulous, double-checking every message, every payment, every complaint. It was exhausting for her, but I could see genuine growth in her eyes. You're actually reliable now, I said one evening as we reconciled the final batch of rent transfers. I have to be, she said quietly. I can't afford to mess up again. Not now, not ever. You're learning, I said. That's good. But remember, trust is earned, not assumed. She nodded solemnly. I know. I want to earn it every day. Then came Victor's final visit. He walked in with his usual confident stride, eyes scanning the apartment. I've been keeping track, he said, glancing at the files. Looks like everything is in order. Payments verified, tenants informed, complaints resolved. This is impressive. Lara blushed. I couldn't have done it without guidance. Victor looked at me. And you? You managed to keep her on track? I did, I said firmly. She followed instructions and took responsibility. Victor nodded slowly. Good. That's rare these days. Most people would have doubled down on mistakes. You didn't. Thanks, I said quietly. Lara leaned against me, whispering, I hope I never disappoint you again. You already almost did, I said softly. Now, prove it. Every day counts. Yes, she said, gripping my hand. I will. I swear. The next week was about stability. We confirmed all pending payments, sent follow-ups to tenants, and ensured Victor was satisfied with the progress. The apartment finally felt like ours again, safe, orderly, and under control. I didn't realize how much effort it takes to manage something like this, Laura admitted one night, exhaustion evident. I thought I could just plan, and it would work. I see now that effort and responsibility are everything. Exactly, I said. Enthusiasm is worthless without discipline and follow-through. You've learned that the hard way. She looked at me, teary-eyed but smiling faintly. I understand now. I've changed. I can see it, I said. But one test doesn't define change. Every day is a chance to prove it. I will, she said firmly. No more shortcuts. No more secrets. I won't let you down. I studied her, seeing her sincerity. Good. Now we keep it that way. Then came the final confrontation. Laura had to face the remaining tenants personally. I accompanied her to a meeting with several who had unresolved complaints. I'm sorry for the confusion and problems, Laura said, voice steady but sincere. I didn't handle things properly before. I've corrected the issues, and I'll make sure they don't happen again. The tenants nodded cautiously. One of them muttered, "It's about time someone took responsibility." Yes, I said firmly. Responsibility starts with admitting mistakes and fixing them. Laura has done both. We're committed to keeping everything in order. Another tenant, frowning, said, "I'll believe it when I see consistent results." You will, I said. Consistency is key. That's our promise. Laura looked at me, relieved and grateful. I couldn't have done this without you. I finally see the importance of honesty and accountability. You're learning, I said. Now keep learning. Every day counts. We left the meeting, both exhausted but accomplished. The weight of near eviction, angry tenants, and Victor's warnings hung over us, but we had survived. I feel like a different person, Laura whispered as we walked home. I finally understand the consequences of my choices. Good, I said. Now, don't forget. Responsibility isn't seasonal. It's constant. One slip, and it all collapses again. The apartment was quiet that morning. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel the constant tension in my chest. Laura was sitting at the table, sipping coffee, her notebook open with careful notes about tenants and payments. You're really different now, I said, leaning against the counter. I can see it in the way you handle things. She smiled faintly, but it wasn't forced. I know. I feel different too. I finally understand the weight of my choices. You've come a long way, I said. But don't think growth is automatic. Every day counts. I know, she said quietly. I won't forget. The phone rang, breaking the silence. I answered. Hello? It was Victor. Just checking in. Looks like the apartment is stable, tenants satisfied, and everything is running smoothly. Good job. Thanks, I said. Couldn't have done it without you. No, he said. She did the work. You guided her. That's the difference. I glanced at Laura. See? You're officially accountable in the eyes of Victor too. She laughed softly, though tears shimmered in her eyes. I guess I am. We spent the morning confirming the last few minor payments and sending final emails to tenants. Each confirmation felt like a small victory. Each resolved complaint felt like a step back toward normalcy. "You handled that well," I said, watching her compose a polite but firm message to a tenant who had previously threatened escalation. I had to," she said. I can't afford mistakes anymore." "You won't," I said, voice firm. "Not if you remember what happened. The lessons are clear now." She nodded. I'll keep them with me, always." Later, as we organized the apartment, Laura paused and looked around. I can't believe how messy it was before. I almost ruined everything." "You almost did," I reminded her gently. "But you fixed it. That's what matters." She sighed, sitting down on the couch. I don't know how I can ever repay you for sticking through this." "You don't repay me," I said, smiling faintly. "You show accountability, growth, and honesty. That's enough." I will," she said. "I swear I will. No more reckless plans, no more shortcuts." "Good," I said. "Keep proving it every day. Trust is earned daily." There was a quiet pause, the kind that comes after storms and crises. I could feel the tension slowly dissolving. "You know," Laura said softly, I was obsessed with making money, making plans, proving I was smart. I didn't realize that being smart isn't enough. You need discipline, responsibility, and integrity." "You finally get it," I said, nodding. "And that understanding is worth more than any passive income scheme you imagined." She laughed quietly. I guess so. I almost lost more than money. I almost lost us." "You almost did," I said, voice steady. "But you didn't. That's what counts." She leaned against me, a small smile forming. I want to do better. I want to be better. Not just for the apartment, or money, or tenants, but for us." "I know," I said softly. "And you've started. The rest is up to you." Victor stopped by that afternoon for a final check. "Everything in order," he said, glancing around. "Payments confirmed, complaints resolved, and the landlord satisfied. Good work." "Thanks," I said. "Couldn't have done it without guidance." "No," he said, looking at Laura. "She did the work. You guided her, yes. But the effort was hers. That's what matters." Laura blushed faintly. I learned from my mistakes. That's all I can do." "Exactly," Victor said. "Learn and apply it. That's responsibility." After he left, we sat together on the couch. Silence, but comfortable now, not tense. I can't believe it's finally over," Laura whispered. I almost ruined everything." "You almost did," I said quietly. "But look at us now. We survived, we rebuilt, and we learned. That's what counts." I understand now," she said, voice soft. I'll never take it for granted again." "You better not," I said, smiling faintly. "Trust and responsibility aren't permanent. They're fragile, and they need constant care." I will," she said firmly. "I promise." The afternoon passed with us organizing the apartment, confirming final tenant requests, and making minor adjustments to prevent future issues. For the first time, I felt calm in our home. Not carefree, not naive, but calm. You're really different now, I said, observing her as she checked a spreadsheet. I had to be, she admitted. I couldn't afford not to be. And you did it, I said. You proved you could grow, take responsibility, and handle consequences. That's what matters. I know, she said softly. I've learned my lesson. I'll never forget it. You'd better not, I said. I won't let it happen again. Not to us, not to the apartment. She nodded, smiling faintly. I understand. And I want to keep proving it every day. I reached for her hand. Then do it. Every day counts. I will, she whispered. We spent the evening quietly, reflecting on the past weeks. The mistakes, the chaos, the near eviction, all of it seemed like a distant memory now. Yet the lessons lingered, sharper than ever. I feel like a different person, Lara said quietly. I finally understand what I did wrong, and how to do better. I can see it, I said. And that's why we're still here. That's why we survived. Lessons learned, accountability taken, trust rebuilt. She squeezed my hand. I won't forget this. I promise. You better not, I said firmly. But remember, survival is only part of the story. Growth is the rest. I understand, she said. And I'll keep growing. The apartment felt quiet, safe, and orderly. The storm had passed. We had faced the consequences, endured the chaos, and emerged stronger. I almost lost everything, Lara said softly. I almost lost you. You almost did, I reminded her. But look at us now. We're still here, together. And that's what matters. She leaned against me, small tears in her eyes. I'll never forget. I'll do better. I swear. You already are, I said quietly. Now, keep proving it every day. Trust is earned through consistent action, not words. Months had passed since the chaos of the apartment nearly consumed us. The tenants were stable, Victor had stepped back, and the landlord finally seemed confident in our reliability. The apartment, once a battlefield, had become a home. I sat at the kitchen table one evening, sipping coffee, watching Lara organize documents. She moved carefully, deliberately, almost ritualistically. You're still meticulous, I said with a half-smile. I have to be, she replied softly. I can't afford to slip again. You won't, I said. Not if you remember everything we went through. She nodded, eyes thoughtful. I think about it every day. About how reckless I was, about how close we came to losing everything. I finally get it. Responsibility isn't just a word, it's life. Exactly, I said. And now that you understand it, you handle the consequences before they even arise. She paused, looking at me. Do you forgive me? For everything? I exhaled slowly, thinking of the nights I stayed up worrying, the arguments, the frustration, the near eviction. I do, I said. But forgiveness isn't enough. I need to see that you've changed. And I see it. Every day. She smiled faintly, relief flooding her features. I won't forget it. I'll keep proving it. We spent the evening tidying the apartment, checking tenant communications, and planning for the next month's payments. Routine had replaced chaos, but the lessons from the past were imprinted on every action. You know, Laura said quietly, I never realized how much I underestimated simple things. Like honesty, like communication, like following through. I thought I was smart. I thought charm and ideas were enough. They aren't, I said. Not when lives, money, and relationships are involved. That's the reality of consequence. She nodded, pensively. I finally understand. And I feel different now. Not just about the apartment, but about me. About us. I reached for her hand. Growth is the result of experience, Laura. You've learned it the hard way, but it's solid now. And that's worth more than any money you imagined making. She squeezed my hand. I realize that now. I was obsessed with wealth, with proving myself, with being right. I almost destroyed what mattered most. You. Us. This home. You almost did, I reminded her gently. But look at where we are now. Alive, stronger, and more connected than before. I won't take it for granted again, she whispered. Good, I said, smiling faintly. The lessons are harsh, but necessary. You've proven you can grow, take responsibility, and face consequences. That's what counts. She nodded, eyes glistening. I finally see that. I feel it too. Every day. And I want to keep doing better. Not just for me or the apartment, but for us. You're already doing it, I said. Now, keep it consistent. That's what earns trust. We spent the next few hours reflecting on everything that had happened. The arguments, the near eviction, Victor's interventions, the landlord's warnings, the chaos of the subleases, all of it. I think I've changed, Laura said quietly. Not just because I had to, but because I want to. I want to handle life better. I don't want to risk losing what I care about ever again. I can see it, I said. And that's why we survived. Growth isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about facing them, learning, and proving you can do better next time. She leaned against me, smiling softly. I guess I finally understand why you were so persistent about guidance and accountability. You weren't trying to control me, you were helping me survive my own mistakes. Yes, I said quietly. Exactly. And now you're proving that guidance can be turned into responsibility. That's the difference between chaos and stability. I feel like a different person, she whispered. I finally see the value of patience, honesty, and follow-through. I feel lighter somehow. Good, I said. That lightness comes from understanding the weight of responsibility. You've balanced both now, and that's why the apartment and our relationship are intact. We sat in silence for a few moments, the golden evening light spilling across the room. The apartment felt peaceful, ordered, and truly ours. The storm had passed, but the lessons remained, etched in memory. You taught me more than I realized, Laura said softly. About responsibility, about trust, about life. And you've taught me, I said. About patience, about guiding someone without losing my temper, about seeing growth when it happens. She laughed quietly, tears shimmering. I never thought we'd come this far. I almost ruined everything. I'm so grateful we survived. You almost did, I reminded her gently. But we did survive. Together. That's what matters. I understand now, she said quietly. And I'll keep proving it. Every day. You already are, I said. Now, just keep proving it. Actions matter more than words, Lara. Remember that. I will, she whispered. I swear. As the days turned into weeks, the apartment remained stable. Lara continued to handle tenants professionally, communicate honestly, and manage finances responsibly. Victor checked in occasionally, satisfied with her progress, and the landlord no longer raised concerns. You've truly changed, I said one evening as we reviewed the month's payments. I can see it in how you manage everything. I have to be different, she said. I don't want to go back to how things were. I won't let mistakes define me again. And they won't, I said. Not if you keep learning and acting responsibly. Growth is continuous, Lara. Don't forget that. I won't, she said firmly. I'll keep proving it every day. For the apartment, for the tenants, for us. Good, I said. Because that's the only way forward. Trust is fragile. Responsibility is constant. You've experienced both, and now you know how to maintain them. She leaned against me, smiling softly. I feel hopeful now. For the first time, I feel like we can handle anything together. We can, I said, voice steady. As long as we remember the lessons, take responsibility, and act consistently. That's how we survive and thrive. I understand, she whispered. And I'm ready for whatever comes next.